everyone, so yesterday I filmed my 2022 setup in my new bullet journal. It's by Arden and it's called the Moonflower design. I've been using their bullet journal since the beginning of 2020 and I actually became an affiliate with them, so if you want to get 10% off of your purchase, you can go check out the link in my description and enter the code ARDENBOUJOS at checkout, so you get 10% off. And I also earn a small commission at no extra cost to you. So yeah, and today I'm gonna set up my bullet journal for January. Like I said, yesterday I did my 2022 setup, so if you want to check that out, I'll leave a link in the description as well. I'll go ahead and start on these 2 pages and I'll switch to voiceover again, just so that I can focus a little bit better. Alright, so for the setup I decided on these 2 green shades plus a gold gel pen as a color palette. These markers are really watery, so you can get some really nice effects. And for this month I wanted to do a eucalyptus theme, so I thought those greens would work really well together. I always include a list of all the products that I used in the description, so you can check that out if you're curious. For the cover page, I first used a pencil to sketch out the rough shape and placement so that it's nice and centered on the page. Next I'm going in with the light shade of green, which is what I'm going to be using primarily, and I just outlined the leaves first and then colored them in. So I tried to kind of drag the marker towards the stem, if that makes sense, because I wanted to follow the flow of the leaf so that it makes it look a bit more natural. Now, like I mentioned before, the ink on these particular markers is quite watery, and I went over the leaves a couple of times and it actually ended up bleeding through the page a little bit, so I would just suggest not to go over them too often. I think I did it like 3 or 4 times and that was just a bit too much. But anyway, as you can see, I also added these other types of leaves and I just wanted to add a bit more variation and I thought they looked really cute together. So to create those, I just put a bit more pressure on the marker at the beginning and then kind of flicked it towards the stem so that the end is thicker and the stroke gets thinner as it goes along. And then with the darker shade, I also went over mostly the ends and also a bit over the stem to just create a bit more contrast overall. Next up, I used a black pen to give the leaves an outline, and I also drew like a teardrop shape towards the stem, which I thought made them look a little bit more detailed. For the titles in the setup, I wanted to use some craft paper, which I haven't done in a while, and first I thought I would make it a circle, but I actually ended up deciding on a rectangle later on. So here I just traced around a candle and cut it out. Then I sketched out the title first in pencil and wrote it with my favorite white pen, which is the Universal gel pen. I kind of experimented with adding a little doodle underneath, but I didn't really like it, so instead I just cut off a rectangle and rounded off the corners. Then I just rewrote the title, and I thought this looked a lot better on top of the illustration, so I glued it on the bottom part of the branches. To add a little bit of color, I used a gold gel pen to add a bunch of dots all around, and I always love doing this because it just fills in any awkward spaces. Moving on to the right page, I've been doing the same sort of layout for the last couple of months and nothing has changed so far. I just really like having some monthly planning sections so that I have an overview of the whole month. And again, I wanted to use more craft paper for the titles, so I cut a strip that was as wide as one section and then just made 6 rectangles with my paper cutter. Then of course I glued them onto the page and I was like using a glue roller for this. Tesa has one and I also know that Tombow has one, but honestly it doesn't really matter which brand, they're all kind of the same. For the titles, again I'm writing them in white and I chose a simple font where I spaced the letters so that they all fit in one of the grid spaces. I personally think this makes it look a little bit more clean. So yeah, I have sections for events, my Etsy shop, freelance work, my bachelor's degree to-dos, and of course a little YouTube and Instagram growth tracker. By the way, we're almost at 3,000 subs, so welcome to anyone new to the channel, and thank you guys as always for all the love and support. I used the lighter shade of green to make the boxes, and I also used a ruler here because I wanted this page to look pretty clean. And lastly here, I just added a few gold specks in the right lower corner to tie them in with the cover page. Next up, I'm doing my habit trackers as always, although I did switch them up a little bit this time. For the last couple of months, I usually had 4 daily habits, a few weekly, and also a few monthly habits, but this time I included 2 more daily habits, and I omitted the monthly habits completely because they're kind of more like goals anyway, and honestly I also kind of ran out of space at the end. But yeah, as you saw, I actually used my grid spacing guide, so it has definitely come in handy already, and then I did the same style of header with the craft paper and white title. For the habits, I just used the green as a background for the titles, and then I also decorated the title on the top with those smaller leaves that I added on the cover as well. So then, as you can see, I made 3 habits in one row, and I wrote the habit itself in black. Then I added the weekdays in gold underneath, and then I always just like to outline the shape of the calendar without the dates in it, so I can just fill in one grid space if I completed the habit. And here I just did the same thing for the other ones. I wanted to have something to kind of separate the daily habits from the weekly ones, so I thought I would just draw another eucalyptus branch. I did end up making it a little bit crooked, which still kind of bothers me a little bit, but yeah, the process was the same as for the ones on the cover page. Then I first wrote out my weekly habits in pencil and used the green again as background. And I did the same style of font where each letter fits in one of the grid spaces. Last month I actually made a mistake for my weekly habits because I only made 1 square to take off when there should have been 5, but this time I actually remembered and I drew 5 circles for the weeks in gold. And yeah, as you can see, there's not a lot of space left, so I just didn't include any monthly habits, but instead I decided to fill the empty space with another eucalyptus branch. On the right page, I wasn't really sure what I was gonna do at first, but I ended up going back to the same style of work planner that I did in December. So for this, I created a little calendar with the days being 2 spaces wide and 3 spaces tall. I also kind of regret freehanding these lines a bit because they turned out super wobbly, but anyway, I wrote the date into the first row of each day, which leaves me with 4 spaces because I currently have 4 types of work that I want to keep track of. I also decorated the empty spots with some more doodles, and then on the right side I made a little key and title for my calendar. So again, I wrote the title in white on some craft paper, and then I decided on 4 colors that kind of fit the theme for my types of work. You could also use this planner for subjects in school or other things you need to plan out in general. I also decorated the empty space underneath the color code with another eucalyptus branch to kind of balance out the page a bit as well. On the bottom half, I just added 2 simple sections for keeping track of my Korean and art studying goals. Lastly, I of course did my first weekly spread for January, and again my grid spacing guide was super useful, and I wanted to make a pretty simple layout with a lot of space for my daily to-dos. So I wanted to leave a bit more space above my first 4 days where I can add a little title and also a mini calendar. Here I wrote week 1 on some more craft paper, and then I created my small calendar on the right side. I glued down the title on the left side, and then I added 2 eucalyptus branches next to the calendar. Next, I created my daily section, so again I'm using the light green as a background for the title. Then I just used the gold with a ruler to make the borders. I wrote the weekdays in black, and I also added the date on the right side. Quick note here, I actually started with the 3rd of January here because I already included the last week in my December weekly spreads. Then I just did the same thing for the last days, and I decided to place them on the top to just make the layout a bit more interesting. Since I felt like I didn't really need a lot of other sections for this week, I just included 2 small ones on the bottom, and I filled the empty space next to Sunday with another illustration. Lastly, I just added these 2 sections for my to-dos and my Etsy orders for that week, and I wrote the title in gold to make them stand out a bit from the daily sections. Alright, so I'm all finished with the spread. I'm just gonna give you a little flip through as always. Alright, so starting off with the cover page, I think this turned out really cute. I wanted to keep it pretty simple for these sections. I pretty much always do the same thing, but I really like the cover. I really wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, but yeah, I'm really happy with it. I also wanted to incorporate a lot more craft paper again, because I just think it adds so much to a page and it just always looks really nice. Yeah, so then I have my habit trackers. I especially love these kind of doodles that I did. The markers that I used are perfect for this kind of thing because they're very like liquidy, so you can kind of achieve more of a watercolor effect, I feel like. And then lastly, my weekly spread. I think this also turned out really cute. I didn't really feel like I needed a lot of sections, so I just did a really simple layout. Also, I really like using the gold with this spread. I don't know if you can really see it, but it's just a gold gel pen, and I don't know, I feel like it just adds a little bit of a different texture. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching as always. I hope you like this setup, and yeah, I can't wait to come up with other themes for the rest of the year as well. I hope you have a great start into the new year, and I hope I'll see you again in the next video. Bye!